Welcome to another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions. My name is Molly McGrath, and I am the creator of this office altering podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. As always, you can check us out at hiringandempowering.com. We have a celebrity with us today. I am so excited to interview with Sara Connell, founder of Thought Leader Academy. And you are in for a treat today. Sara is so passionate about helping women make a huge impact by becoming best-selling authors, TEDx speakers, and she's been featured on Oprah, Good Morning America, The View, Fox Chicago, CBS, NBC, Katie Couric. I mean, the list goes on and on. New York Times, Forbes, Good Housekeeping and Parenting, and presented at many Fortune 1000 and top companies, including Avon, Estee Lauder, Origins, GE, Northwestern University. I could go on and on and on. Sara, I am so excited to have you here. Thank you for your time today.
I'm so excited to be here. I was so looking forward to it. As I said, Molly, this is a great podcast, and I'm honored to be a guest.
So we met through some mutual friends, and she was sharing about writing a best-selling book, et cetera. I've written 3 books now, and the process is grueling, and we are kind of kibutzing. And she's like, actually, that wasn't my experience at all. And I'm like, tell me about it. And she's like, have you heard of the Thought Leaders Academy? And started sharing. I'm like, oh my goodness. She goes, I have to make an email introduction, because I said many of my attorney clients, every time when I talk to an entrepreneur, nowadays, a little bit more, I want to start a podcast, but it always starts when you say, what are your wishes? What are your dreams? If you could get freed up from your business, what would you do with your time? It's 100% of the time, write a book. That's what I hear. And so I would love for you to share. You know, people say they want to write a book. And so you say, right. Yeah, I have a story inside of me, not sure how to get it out of me, but then they get overwhelmed with, what do I do with this book to capitalize on it for it to be profitable once I get pen to paper?
Yeah, it's such a big process, right? Because even writing the book is like a Herculean task to get our confidence and our time and all the things. And then we have to, share the book and let people know about the book. So, the reason I do this work is that I always wanted to be an author. And when I was little, I loved reading and all this stuff. And I just got a message from a teacher that I wasn't good enough, just one of those things that happens, right? And so I gave up on this dream. That was a really deep calling. And I think, like you said, we know when we have a book in us, like we can feel it at a soul level. You've written multiple books, and so what happened is that about 17 years ago, a book saved my life. I mean that literally, that I was in an abusive job and I was spiraling into a health crisis. And I read this book that I randomly picked up in the airport bookstore. And that moment of reading that book, I realized I'm going to leave this job and I'm going to get help for this health crisis that I'm having. And my whole life it changed. I mean, I'm probably still on the planet, because of that moment. And so that's when I realized I need to do whatever needs to happen so that I can pay that forward. I need to figure out whatever I need to get over or get help or support to write my own books, and then make sure that anyone who has that same calling gets to write that book, because there are people like me out there whose lives depend on these books being shared. And it's not always so dramatic as life and death. But I think most times if I'm in a group of people and I say, was there ever a book that changed your life? And most of us say, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that book?
The book I read that day was called Holy Hunger by Margaret Bullitt Jonas. And so, again, it won't be the lifesaver for, anyone else necessarily, but it was mine. And I've had some of our authors that we've coached. I mean, we have one woman who's one of the senior ranking officers in the Coast Guard, and she wrote a book to prevent military suicides. And, the rates are extreme right now. And so, it can be also, we have clients writing novels and fantasy stories and science fiction. And I think all of it is such a contribution and a gift. So anyway, I made it my mission to do, crack the code, if you will. How can those of us that have this book inside us actually do it? How can it be easy, fun, enjoyable, profitable, and impactful? And that's really what I spent 10 years working on. So now we're able to take people through that process that took me 10 years, 1 year. And it's really exciting to see these books and these TEDx talks and these podcasts get birthed. Because, actually what a lot of my clients are doing now is turning their podcasts into a book. So those of
Oh,
you
I
that are
love
doing
that.
podcasts, what's really fun is you don't have to start from scratch and work for 3 years. And it's like, we've had people turn their interview series into beautiful books that do really well and are high converting for clients and all kinds of neat stuff. So it's pretty exciting what's going on.
It is so exciting. And I mean, it creates for you to be a thought leader. So often I'll hear, and I resonate with this statement when people say, "Oh, you're an author." I'm like, I'm not an author.
Mm.
I am not an author. I just have a story to tell. And I happen to, hire people that supported me with getting my book into print in a leveraged way because I felt myself retelling my story over and over and over again. Or every time I get on a consultation with a prospective client or every coaching conversation I had, I'm like, I feel like a broken record. And it just somebody I had met along the way is like, you need to write a book. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that would be a great way to leverage it, number one, and also be able to hand it over to my clients, prospective clients, get it out in the world. And even today, I hear people all the time say, wow, I really love your book. It helped me to step up and become, one of them, an entrepreneur in an entrepreneur's world of really when people are complaining about their bosses or they're not getting raises or what have you, I'm like, pick up my book and then call me. And it helps me to leverage my time as well. And right?
We have clients who say, my goal is for people to not even finish my book, but to hire me midway through the book. Like that's what we're sort of, obviously, I'm a book nut, so I'll always want to read the whole book. But I think it really does let you create rapport, create love, serve someone and give them some of the foundational pieces so they know you're their person. But like, I do need to call Molly. Like it's a really leveraged way to do our work.
Yeah. And just even hearing you say that, I have so many attorneys that are at a spot right now where they want to get out of the conference room or entrepreneurs and they want to do some peak performance activities. They want to replace themselves within their firm. Yeah. And as you were talking, it's a great way for them to still get connected to the heartbeat of the business, very much have the why and the mission and the values of the firm, but they don't have to be in the conference room emulating that essence.
Yes. And it's a legacy. It's a piece of you that gets to live and extend beyond your physical, being there. And we've had so many lawyers that I've had the privilege of coaching and serving who just feel burnt out. They just feel burnt out of the process and it's a high burnout rate, right? And they're like, I just want to be able to, write this book and have time off and do. So it's really wonderful to see that happen for people.
Yes. I can tell you, I can think of at least 20 attorneys on the top of my head that are at the burnout phase, but you don't want to push it so far where you get to a place where you completely strip yourself of all the passion and the why you did what you did. And that's what I love about the book and getting that when you start to feel yourself at that place of kind of burnout or like a broken record or resenting that's when I feel like is your internal calling, your internal barometer to say, okay, now is a time to replace yourself in the day-to-day stuff that you're feeling burned out about. So you still have that passion and fire to go and write the book.
Yes, 100%. You still love it enough. It hasn't killed the joy out of us yet. Hopefully it reignites the joy because this is your life's work that's going into, I'm sure, Molly, with you, it's like pieces of, your legacy and your mission get to like live there on the page.
Yes. Oh, so tell us, I am deeply curious about how to write a best-selling book that changes lives in as little as 3 months. Is this possible?
Yeah. So it is actually possible. Now, some of our clients choose to take longer with their books. They don't want to write a book that fast, which is great. I write frequently. I've published books. I'm in the trenches writing with all of you. And sometimes I'll take a whole year on work on a book, and other times I'll write one in 3 months. But what we really wanted to create was a replicatable process that if someone had never written before, they're not a trained writer, although lawyers are always great writers because they already, know how to
Yes.
logical. And so I love working with lawyers. But the idea is that this doesn't have to take 10 years and be some kind of doorstop, thick book. It's like all of you, I'm guessing, listening, your brilliance, like, you've lived the work, right? So it's about bringing the work out. So we start with a strategy session. I have a phenomenal team of editors and writing coaches that work with us intimately and our clients. And we start out by, in a single session, we typically can come up with the big idea for the book, what's sort of the big overarching like promise or covenant, if you will, of this book with your reader. And then what's the impact you want it to have? Who is it for? What outcomes, do you as the author want? Again, is it bringing people into your practice or replacing yourself and not having to tell the same things a billion times, or being a lead magnet, in different ways? Inspiring others? Is it about legacy, or all of the above? So we get clear on those outcomes, and then we really reverse engineer the book to, I don't like using the word outline because people hate that word sometimes. So just we map it. We make a book map and a timeline. And so if someone has the bandwidth, it can easily be done in 10 to 12 weeks. We basically take, your process, your methodology, your story, your genius, and create a framework, a set of chapters that takes a reader through a journey, and gives them, we have a really specific structure, and I'll share it here just so if anyone just wants to take it and run with it. This is not what everyone chooses to use for their book, but let's say you just know you have this book and you're like, I don't even know what to put on the page, and that overwhelm sets in. You can think S, S, S. So the letter S 3 times. And so chapter 1 could be your story. This is like you're a superhero and your origin story. Like, why did you go into law or start your entrepreneurial business? What was the thing that, some people it's a trauma, some people it's a calling, some people it's a spirit of activism or social change. So what is that origin story for you? And share that, authentically with your reader. And then chapter 2 can be the situation. What's going on in the world that is creating a problem that your book solves, right? Like, what is the cost of not solving it? This is where we can be like journalists and add some statistics and things. And the rest of the chapters 3 through the end is the solution. And so you really can start your story, the situation or problem, and then give them the solution. Now, again, some people want to write a memoir that's really just their story. And some people want to write a fiction book, and some people want to write a different kind of book. I don't impose a structure on anyone. But what I like about SSS is that you'll never face the blank page. You really just know, okay, I'm going to share about my story. I'm going to share about the situation. I'm going to share the solution that you've created. And all of you listening have that inside you. And it's just really kind of pulling it out. And of course, there's all kinds of cool other neat moves we can do if we want the book to be converting for clients or create interaction, all kinds of things. But the SSS can really get you, far. And again, if you have a process you use in your legal practice or your entrepreneur work, that becomes the chapters. And if you're not sure what it is, sometimes we have clients go, I don't really know what my framework is. I just show up and, then we pull it out of you.
You pull it out.
And so we pull it out. So then, after that first session, you have, what it is, your structure, how long you want to take. And then it's really just, we always pair everyone one-on-one with an editor. I think every writer deserves a professional editor to coach them and walk them through that journey and be that professional guide. Because if you've not been, you didn't go back to, creative writing school and get a master's like geeks like me did, you want someone who's trained in that to be able to walk you through it. And then the really important part then is helping each person identify their ideal path to publication. So many ways to get published now. So we created a really simple system to identify which path be ideal for you, and then making those introductions to publishers or agents or, whatever route people want to take, self-publishers. And then we really focus on impact at that point, which will lead to the income. So we have a process that We'll ensure that a book becomes an Amazon bestseller right when it's launched. So far, 100% of our clients have
Oh,
it
great.
on day one. So we're hoping to always keep that statistic. But that means volume, right? That means impact. That means enough people are reading the book, and then helping people who want to go and turn their book into a TEDx talk or go speak at conferences and get paid to give keynotes on their book. And it creates a whole nother multiple pathways of revenue, and passion and ways to serve and inspire and lead.
So, how long's that first strategy session?
Yeah, it's really wild because people hear it and they're like, isn't this like 8 hours long? And we do about 90 minutes. Honestly, usually in an hour, like we can get there because this is all I do all day long, is create books, right? So it's like fun for me to dig in, and we can usually create a framework very, very quickly, based on, especially, if someone's wanting to write like an epic fantasy novel, that's a little bit different of an undertaking. But when it's a book on your work, your legacy, your mission, your purpose, that's all that material's in you. So yeah, it goes pretty quickly.
So 90 minutes for that session, then you walk away, and what's the homework for the book writer at that point,
Yeah.
if
So
any?
then they're working in Thought Leader Academy. We do that kickoff session, and they're working one-on-one with their editor then over the next months or 6 months or 9 months or whatever they just you decide in your initial session. And you have that person there to walk you through step by step in turning in your pages and getting suggestions on revision and brainstorming what's next. And if you're like, we have a whole course of recorded modules that go along with it. So if you're I call them gremlins, come up, any self-doubt or just, I don't have
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And we have all the time hacks and all the, so you're supported sort of on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And then, you have that one-on-one support. And then I am working in the group of all of us who are doing all the writers and thought leaders and lawyers and doctors that are working on their books. Then we're meeting twice a month to talk about the bigger picture pieces: publishing, speaking, TEDx, book launch, how to create a workshop out of your book, or how to, go get $10,000 for a keynote talk on your book. And so there's a lot of mentorship and support. And then the writers who want to form pods, totally elective, but people that love the idea of getting to do, we have write-ins and mini retreats, and we're going to all be in San Diego in May doing a 3-day writing immersion. And so there's so many neat things that we build into this year-long experience for people that want, the whole mothership of, of thought leadership. But it's really exciting because I looked back at my own process and where I got stuck. And I tracked every place where I got stuck and what would have helped me. And then we built the antidote to all those stuck places into this experience. So the goal is that you don't ever have to get stuck. You just, stay in motion, and it gets to happen pretty, like Catherine was saying, oh, that wasn't my experience. This has actually been okay.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning Thought Leaders Academy. Can you tell us a little? I love the naming convention. It's so phenomenal. Tell us a little bit about Thought Leaders Academy.
Yeah, so it's really the group experience, like I just described, where everyone has a one-on-one book editor and then works in with me and the rest of. We have about 45 people that are currently going through this process in 2021 of writing books and learning how to speak. So, like I said, there's a one-on-one coaching element, a group coaching element, a peer community element with our writers, and then we have 2 retreats, and then it's like Netflix for thought leaders. All of the training modules are on demand. So let's say, Molly, you said, I've got my book, but I want to do TEDx and I want to publish in Forbes. It's like, here's exactly how you go about doing that and making that happen. And there's the trainings, and then people come to the group sessions with me and say, okay, like, this is what I came up with for my TEDx idea. What do people think? Or here's the subtitle for my book. And the community is phenomenal because there's now these 40 some people who are in this with you, that are championing your book when it comes out, that are having you on their podcast, that are, there's an incredible spirit of the rising tide that raises all ships. And some people come to everything, all the retreats, all the sessions, that people pick and choose. But it's there to support you daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis.
Oh my goodness. That, I mean, I'm just even thinking about that, being in that group of 45 other entrepreneurs and they're supporting you. Even thinking of our attorney listeners, by and large, whether they're doing estate planning or immigration or
Mhm.
divorce, what have you. So often I'll see their social media posts or I'm on their blog list or their newsletter, what have you. I'm like, that's the name of a book. Like right
Yeah.
there is your book title, because it stopped me in my tracks. It got
Yeah.
me to stop and read it. And I'm forget, I'm like, oh, wait, this is one of my clients, but the title just really jars me. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, like, who doesn't need legal services? So if you're in this group with a health coach or a business coach or what
Yes.
have you, and you have an estate planning attorney that's writing a book and you're promoting it, and then you're getting on TEDx and you're getting on podcasts. Like I'm thinking of this just from a pure marketing and branding strategy.
Right? Because think about, sometimes people will hire an attorney just based on those, like a best-selling author, TEDx, or a coach, not just attorneys, coaches,
Right.
entrepreneurs. And then who are we all going to work with when we need estate planning, or who's everyone in thought leader? I mean, because the friendships go deep once we, get in there together. So it's kind of awesome, right? Like it's like we, like the referral and joint venture possibilities are really exciting, and we focus a lot on that because I think that's how the return on investment happens. People think, oh, I've got to go sell a billion books. That's great. And absolutely go do it. But I like to look at all the other ways
Me
that
too.
exponential growth happens. I think book sales are like a icing on the cake. And there's years I've made a lot on book sales, and there's years I haven't because I haven't had a new book come out. And that's just gravy. I am all about partnerships, joint ventures, speaking, these other really awesome opportunities to expand and up level.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Wow. I mean, I think anybody would be, you're making this process so easy and doable. I love the SSS. And even though you're outlining the process, I can imagine that even getting stuck at the first test. I think my story resonates with me. I think, but I'm even thinking of you pulling it out and the power of the process and the powerful questions that you ask, because everybody has a story in them. I mean, even our listeners here, every single listener here has a why that it started with, why they're doing what they're doing and why they're where they are. And maybe they're not at their ultimate why, they're on their journey of the why, but they're there. And I just, even the book writing process, I can imagine is just bringing you closer and closer and closer to why you do what you do.
Yes. And it clarifies. That's the cool part. By the end of going through creating the book and a TEDx talk, and it's like you're kind of on fire with your mission, right? You're so clear, you're so embodied, it's so conscious. I think, like, to me, that's one of the most exciting parts, is then the confidence it gives us to just go out and again, be that leader that each of you came here to be.
Yeah. And I love what you said about, okay, so you're going to invest money in going through this process, right? And then at the end of the day, so many people think about book sales, books. So often people will say to me, well, how'd you do on book sales? What'd you make? And I did not work with someone like you. Got to Amazon, #1 bestseller, got my first book on Amazon, yeah, or up on Times Square on the Jumbotron, absolutely paid for that,
Yep.
for the
Yeah.
marketing and branding, which was worth it. I have no idea how many book sales I've made, and it was 2009 when my first book dropped. I
Mhm.
have no idea. I
Yeah.
don't, at it really wasn't about that for me. For
Mhm.
me, it was a way for me to leverage my message, a way for me to get my message into as many hands as quick as possible. I gave out a tremendous amount as gift, and I still can. That protects my time and my energy, especially if someone's not a right fit for me. They'll know very quickly, based on my origin story, that I'm not a good fit for them. And that's great news for me because it's protecting my time and reputation of working with a bad type client that's not a good fit, what have you. But it's all the other strategic, just like this podcast, like doing this podcast, the people that I get to meet, like you, everybody's always referring. You came referred from someone else. Every time I talk to someone, tell me what organizations you're in. What are you doing for personal and professional development? And there's always, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this Thought Leaders Academy? I need to know about it. So it's that type of stuff that happens with the collaboration, the third party credibility, the all of that is why I do what I do for writing books and podcasts.
Definitely. You're a thought leader, and you're a leader in this space, and you're living it. You're living proof of the work. Yes.
Yeah, but you encourage, now I'm like, I have another book in me and it's been there, but your process really, and I'm really truly being authentic with this statement of, even when you said a way for you to even leverage your business, because sometimes people think they need like this down and out homeless and destitute story, or they need this really, but I'm even thinking of like just walking people through, I'll use my example, my hiring process that I have, which is very unique, and everybody has a unique process and system. And then I always tell my clients, that's what distinguishes you. You're not just selling a will. You're not just selling divorce documents. It's your process, it's your culture, it's your energy, it's the language that you use that really is what distinguishes you in the market. And if you're a family law attorney, divorce attorney, immigration attorney, and you have a book that's written and it's not legalese, but it's that SSS process, I think you're crazy not to write a book.
Molly, I love that you're presenting this about, like, it doesn't have to be some kind of, because some people think if I wasn't, homeless on the streets, or, doing drugs in the back alley, or my parents like died and left me in the basket, like Moses, like,
yes.
And we have to remember, people don't pay for information. They pay for the organization of information. That's what people really need to invest in, and for a story that touches their heart.
I love that.
And so what I love about books, right? Like Profit First, one of the most successful books, out there, really what that book is about is saying, hey, I'm an entrepreneur who realized I was spending all my money back in the business. Anyone else in that pain? And then everyone who's ever been an entrepreneur goes, yes, practically.
Yes.
Wow, I'm making so much more money. I'm keeping none of it. Help. And, the boat has holes. And he says, I was there. I get it. Now that's not I was about to die and I was on, living in my car and whatever. It's just like, hey, I wasn't keeping any money and my family was not getting any rewards. And I did this whole thing to have freedom, and I don't have any freedom. I'm going to show you how to not have that be your experience anymore. That book has helped so many millions of people. So many people have created more profitability, more abundance for their family, more health, wellness, wealth, all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be some kind of, car chase drama. It's like, do you have a way of doing something? And I know for me, when I'm hiring an attorney for, we've done our family estate planning, and we've thinking of other legal services, business, international or intellectual property, and, people, it's about a culture fit. It's like, do I feel like I can trust this person? Do they have a process that resonates with me? So it does matter. And if I'm looking at a website and someone's written the book on it, I'm probably hiring that attorney, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would wholeheartedly agree. I love what you said. We cannot gloss over this. People don't pay for information. They pay for the organization of information.
Yeah. It's
wow.
Right. And it just gets chills because I had a coach, Melissa Farr, who said something along those lines. I want to credit, just her planting that idea in me. And I know it's true, right? Because we could go to a million people for health, legal, organizing our home, but it's, how does that person organize the information? What process do they lead me through? Does it feel good to me? Does it make me calm down? Does it take the overwhelm out? It's everything. Yeah. So because sometimes people get scared, like, oh, who needs another book on family law? Well, guess what? A lot of people.
Yes.
Because they've read all the other ones and they haven't landed. Yours is the one that's going to land.
Yeah, think about it when you're on a sales call with someone, whether you're hiring a marketing agency or an attorney or someone to put in hardwood floors in your house, in your office, what have you. Think about the person that you go with. They're probably not the cheapest, but they are probably the person that laid out the process from beginning to middle to end and the why. And
Yes.
so I love how you're saying this. And if you can do this in a very leveraged way with the book, and many of our attorneys are very, they've read the E Myth way back when. They're
Yes.
huge fans of Gino Wickman and
Yes.
traction and
Oh my,
all that
look,
stuff.
I'm an EOS business. I have an integrator. We are all EOS at our company.
Yeah, I love it. I just interviewed an EOS consultant yesterday on my
Oh,
podcast. I love it. I love it. I love EOS. I love Rocket Fuel. I just hired an integrator as well,
yes.
and she's
Oh,
changed my life.
game changer. It's a game
Yes.
changer.
Yes. Yeah. So I love that statement, guys. Like, if there's anything that you take away from this, is really truly, you know, you're entrepreneurs, how you make buying decisions and who you hire, whether it be employee or professional or personal service, what have you. I think it just really got solidified and nailed right there with the reason to even write a book, other than to be a thought leader, to be absolutely to be considered as an influencer and to be a game changer within your industry, because it's not about the book sales. And I think the reason that most people don't get started is, if I had to guess, even myself thinking about my next book, I'm like, I've already written 3 books. I've been contributor, author in 2 books. And when I think about the process, it's like that blank white page. And even though I've
Mm,
been through it, it's still very daunting. And what I love about your process, if I'm hearing you correctly, Sarah, is you just need to show up and be present and be able to pour out the authentically and honestly everything. It's like dumping out the junk drawer on the dining room table. And then what you do is help to organize and orchestrate it for folks.
completely. Completely. And suddenly, amidst all what looks like just the chaos of our mind and our ideas, it's like, here is the diamond, inside, and here's how it all actually fits together. And I think that's hard to do when it's our own topic, because
Yes.
we're so close to it. So I actually, people kind of beat themselves up sometimes and they think, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not coming with my idea all the way fleshed. I was like, why would you? I mean, that's what we're here for. Like, and it's a lot to go through our whole life experience and career and pull but I can look at it from the bird's eye view, and from a strategic place of book writing. What is the compelling read that's going to get you those outcomes, and then we get to co-create it.
And do you help people pull? You've probably heard the saying before, subject line is king. Like, do you help people pull out the title?
Yes, titles are crucial. I actually did. I'll have to find it. I don't host a podcast yet. I'm going to do one next year. But the I've done different interviews that we share. But I did an interview with a bookstore owner in Chicago, where I live, and she interviewed bookstore owners across the country and did a Twitter poll for us. And we polled the bookstore owners on titles and like mistakes to avoid and things to make sure you do that, like from a buyer's standpoint. It was so interesting. And yes, I think titles are hugely important. Think about it. Besides the cover design, the title is what someone has to go off. And I bet we all can think back to books we either did buy or did not buy just based on the title. And the subtitle I think of as the promise to the reader. So like the title I think of as something like, my agent calls it sticky, something that
Yeah.
has like a cool sort of intriguing, like, ooh, I like that. And then the subtitle is here's what you're going to get. Here's my promise to you, 7 weeks to your estate planning, or the 6 steps to a loving, harmonious, uncoupling, with
Yeah.
your life intact. So I think titles are very important. Yes, we work on them, and we crowdsource them within Thought Leader Academy, so you have other great minds helping give feedback, for sure.
Oh my goodness. So tell our listeners, Sarah, how can we get started, how can we find out more about your process, about the Thought Leaders Academy?
Yep. You can find everything at our website. So it's www.saraconnell.com. So it's just saraconnell.com. And then on the website, you can get access to an actual masterclass that's our gift to you that takes you through just a little more than we had time to go into today in terms of like how to even think about what your book idea would be and how to make time to write. It's the how do you write a book in 12 weeks that changes lives, right? So you can try out that masterclass for those of you that like to kind of check something out on a recording, or you can just get right in touch if you want to have a conversation directly with me or our team to talk about, supporting your book process. You can just message us there.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, for your wisdom, for sharing about this process and inspiring our listeners to take that quantum leap and finally get that book out.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I can't wait to see these books just start popcorning onto the pages of Amazon and on the bookshelves.
Yes, thank you. Oh, Sara, thank you for being a leader who's leading leaders. So grateful. All right, that's a good stopping point for us. We've reached the end of yet another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast, where dream teams of entrepreneurs in an entrepreneur's world really do come true. Listen, whether you're a business owner, executive, or responsible for hiring in your law firm, we fully understand hiring, onboarding, training, and leadership is very expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and time-consuming for the already taxed professional. Well, we have your back on all fronts. For 25 years, we have transformed over 4,000 law firm teams into becoming the most efficient, resourceful, and profitable asset of your business. Check out our Smart Hire solution or the Employee Leadership Program and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com.